but it'll be live in a second. Okay, we're live now. Okay, well, welcome everyone. Welcome to Supercharged Sunday. So happy to have you all here with us. And I'm Emily McHugh, and I thank you for joining us every Sunday for this wonderful talk. And my extra special guest today, Ms. Gwen McLeod. Welcome, Gwen.
Hi, everybody.
We're so happy to have Gwen. And Gwen, as you all need to know, is the self-esteem empress. We are in the presence of royalty today. And I think I dubbed Gwen Empress because that's the word that came to mind when I think of her regal bearing, her dedication to uplifting and to have people kind of become a better version of themselves or be their higher selves, if you will. And so I really admire Gwen and what she stands for. So I'm very happy to have her share her insights and her experience and everything. So our topic today is on Supercharged Sunday is supercharging your what is wrong with my tongue today? Supercharging your self-esteem. All right. And Gwen will be talking about the 5 ways to improve your self-esteem. So Gwen, how did you even get into this area of self-esteem to identify that was an area to focus on?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for inviting me to be a part of the show. I'm so excited to be here. And how I got started with the whole self-esteem component was, as you are aware, but just to make your viewers aware, that I am a survivor of domestic violence. So, as a survivor of domestic violence, coming through that, I had to totally rebuild, rebrand, and just start from the ground up with reliving my life over again, remaking my life over again, who I was, how I thought about myself, how I carried myself, how I talked about myself. And so it was a process from going from a very depleted, low self-esteem to a healthy self-esteem. And so it started the process, and there are some things that I learned along the way. And as a result of that, when I founded my nonprofit organization, which, just to let your viewers know, I founded a 501c3 nonprofit by the name of We Leap Incorporated. It's a domestic violence awareness organization. In the process of me founding that organization, I found myself actually educating a lot of the women who might have been coming out of abusive situations, or they might have had family or friends that were coming out of abusive situations, or people who they were helping through an abusive situation that might have not have left yet. So these tips are some of the things that I actually teach in that awareness training. And so that's how I got started with it.
And you mentioned something very critical about the vocabulary that we use. And that's one thing that I'm pretty much a stickler on myself personally, is that you have to be very selective and careful in what words you use to speak in general anyway, but certainly regarding yourself and how you describe yourself or your situation, and being so very meticulous about it.
Yes, and it takes practice.
Yes, yes, it does. So that awareness. So the first thing is, when it comes to awareness, it's awareness of an issue that exists in the general society, but also an awareness for maybe your personal situation. Is that sometimes people can be in denial about what they're experiencing.
Yes, sometimes you don't even know that you don't know. You know, when I was in my situation, and I know the topic is not about domestic violence, but when I was in that unhealthy relationship, I didn't even realize to what extent of how unhealthy it was, because sometimes you can be in relationships or in environments to where how people view a relationship is a norm. They don't look at it as something that's not healthy or not good for them. It's just the way things are. This is just how we do. Even though you might sense or feel that what's happening to you in the relationship in itself is not appropriate, but you would never think of it as being an unhealthy relationship. If you did, you wouldn't stay in it as long as you do. And I end up being in an abusive relationship for almost 6 years. in and out, going through different things. So as I came out of that situation, I began to educate myself on what a healthy relationship should look like, what it should entail, and what it should not. So sometimes the best way to educate people on what a healthy relationship looks like is to teach them what it should not look like. Because they can identify with that quicker sometimes than identifying with trying to tell them this is what it should look like. If you tell them what it should not look like, they can get a better understanding of what they should be seeing in a relationship that's healthy.
You know, I can't help but play the Alicia Keys song Fallen in my head, fallen in and out of love with somebody, for example.
Yes.
And the idea of how kind of schizophrenic that thought process is. But the reality is people do that. So again, and that ties in very tightly with self-esteem.
Yes.
And so how the cycle of what allows us to tolerate things maybe that we shouldn't tolerate. So how did all this come together where where you were able to drill down to focus on the self-esteem aspect? You would you say that lays at the foundation of the lack of awareness or maybe denial or whatever of the stages people go through when they're in situations that are less than ideal for whatever reason? Do you feel that self-esteem lies at the foundation of that?
I believe it's a big component of it, and it can be different for different people. But I believe that it is a great component of that, because if your idea of your own self-worth isn't very high, the likelihood or of you gravitating towards or people of unsavory character gravitating towards you increases, because they can see that. They can see that, okay, this is might be easy pickings right here. This might be an opportunity to manipulate or control this situation, which we know that in domestic abuse, that is the primary factor, to be able to control domestic violence. That has to do with it. So depending on where you are, it can really impact, you know, it can impact the situation. Now, with that being said, when I entered into my relationship, I felt that I had very high self-esteem, or at least an adequate amount. I didn't feel like I was a person struggling with my self-esteem. However, throughout the term of that relationship, what I had began to be depleted because of the control, because of the struggle, because of the abuse. So you can be a person that has a very confident person with high self-esteem going into this type of relationship, and you don't know when you lose it, how you lose it, but somehow you turn around and realize that you have lost, a big component of who you are, because it becomes wrapped up, tied up, and tangled up in the person that you say you love.
Oh my, Gwen, there's a lot here to talk about. Which direction to go?
Well, actually, if you don't mind, I did want to just go ahead, and since we're segueing on into that, if you don't mind, I would just like to start out with maybe tip one.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
So one of the ways that I began starting the process once I came out of my toxic relationship was I had to identify the troubling conditions that deflated my self-esteem. So in my case, it was a toxic relationship. And so being able to identify exactly what it is that's taking place with you, you might not be in a toxic relationship. It could be a work situation that's deflating your self-esteem. It could be something else that's happening at home. Maybe it's not necessarily, an abusive relationship, but something else could be happening at home. Maybe some civil rivalry or something like that. It could be some changes in your roles or life circumstances. COVID has certainly rearranged a lot of people's lives, the way they have to do life these days. So sometimes that in itself can impact your self-esteem. So number one, identifying what you feel like the primary reason is or issue is that is the troubling condition that's deflating your self-esteem. And there may be more than one. And if that's the case, then just prioritize it. So first would be my work life. I'm so stressed out right now that, I'm highly educated individual with degrees up the hilt and can't get a job. That can impact your self-esteem,
Mhm.
something of that nature. Maybe it's, I'm a dad, and it's really bothering me that I can't provide for my family right now, and we're on the verge of losing. That can affect your self-esteem. So whatever your case may be, identifying whatever the situation is that's starting to drain or deplete your level of self-esteem. So that would be the first pointer, being truthful with that, identifying whatever that culprit is that's draining you, that's sucking the life out of you in that area of your self-worth.
So Gwen, with that being said, do you find that people are easy to identify, or do they have difficulty sometimes even identifying that specific thing or multiple things
Yes,
that
they do. Yes, they do. And that's why I said it could be multiple things. But if they can list one thing, two things, or three things, at least it's a start. It's a start, because and you'll know, sometimes you can get around certain individuals and you can feel your energy being sucked right out of you, or you behave differently, or you're trying to impress, or you're doing things that are outside of your normal character in order to try to cope.
yeah, and so with that being said though, sometimes though we can identify it or we know that it's there, but we talk ourselves out of it because we're like, well, that's not really the case,
Mhm.
or we don't even bring it to our conscious mind. So maybe say it's in the subconscious somewhere hanging out that you are aware of it subconsciously, but it doesn't become something you actively address. So when,
Exactly.
right?
Yes. And like I said, when I was in my situation, I could not see it. I could not see it for looking, but people who knew me as a bubbly, bright, confident, outspoken individual, they saw a difference. I was still the same me when I looked in the mirror, but evidently there were some changes in my character, in the way I carried myself, in the way that I spoke. It was just clear and evident to everyone else except for me. So one of the things that can also help you with identifying, what the culprit is your support system. If you indeed have a support system, let them be truthful about it. To thine own self be true. And then if you can't, it's people that are around you that can see it.
This is like an impartial third party that can kind of look
Mhm.
at things more objectively. So I want to take a moment, Gwen, to acknowledge some comments we're getting. Thank you, Stephanie, for being here. Stephanie was also one of our past Supercharged Sunday uh, guests, and she did an amazing job some months back, and similar topics with what you're saying, Gwen. And she's saying here, crucial, definitely you should be comfortable and be confident in yourself. Stop searching for what you're seeking in others.
Mhm.
And then she writes, knowing who you are and confidence are two different things. And when you combine the two, you see the power within yourself. And that when you let go of image and you see the facts, is there is there another part of the comment? I know Stephanie has more to say. Share, keep sharing. No, that's very good. But I think what she's saying is seeing the power within yourself and
Yeah.
being able to let go of images that
Yeah.
maybe you don't need that.
And you have to be able to identify what that is, identify those troubling conditions and that's causing that in your life. And so
Yeah.
number two would be become aware of your thoughts and your beliefs around certain things. And once you identify those troubling situations, pay attention to your thoughts about them. I had to rethink the way I thought about myself.
Hmm.
you know um because I had gone through so much, it really, really took some effort for me to change the way I talk. What was I telling myself? What type of things was I saying about myself? All of that had to change. I felt ugly. I felt worthless. I felt like no one else wanted me. I felt, that I couldn't achieve certain goals or have certain things that I wanted. And there are a lot of people feel stuck in that pattern or that mindset, and I had to change the way I thought about myself. I had to change the way that I spoke to myself. You are loved. You are important. You are of value. You do have worth, but when those thoughts start coming to you, you have to be able to get to that place to where you can interpret, you know, exactly what's being said to you, and then have the strength to cast it down, not receive it, not accept it. What
So
you want to
when
say?
within this context, when it comes to self-esteem, you're kind of putting it within, say, a relationship thing. So is it usually or always some type of relationship, regardless of the type? It could be with a family, it could be a spouse, it could be with a, do you think it's mainly linked to a relationship at all times?
No, well, it could be. A lot of times it is if you really research it out to the root. But
Mhm.
for me, I know, like I said, initially, if we're going to look at the relationship focus, when I went into it, I didn't have like any prior family issues that caused me to go that way. I felt like I was a confident person. If anything, I went into the relationship kind of with a savior syndrome, thinking that I could help the person. Sometimes we
Mhm.
have that. We go in with good intentions. You know, what's the saying? The road of something is paved with good intentions.
Oh Lord.
But you know the one I'm saying.
I'm blanking. The road to something is paved with good intentions. Yes. Oh, someone please drop it in the comments, and whoever you know.
But yeah, so going in one way, but it's like trying to save a drowning person. You
Mm.
know,
Oh,
you're compassionate, your heart goes out to it, you're connected to that individual, you want to help them, but in the process of trying to help them, save them, you're killing yourself.
yeah.
You have to really know what you're doing in trying to save a drowning man, because you can go down with them. So, like I said, it could be, but in my situation, that wasn't the case. But in the process of going into that relationship, eyes wide shut, um, emotionally attached, things just begin to deteriorate around me. And, whereas I had that high self esteem and going in, somewhere along the line in that relationship, it changed.
And
And
you know what, Gwen? It's easier to happen than people think. And that's why this is such an important point to highlight. That, as you said, you are confident and you go in there not feeling any kind of problem. But once emotions and other thought processes get involved, you start to lose your sense of objectivity.
yeah,
And then self-doubt can invade. And it's kind of like you have to put up a type of I hesitate to say the word fortress, but you do need to kind of have some protective boundaries or barriers around yourself so that there is protection against these invaders, if you will, of
yeah.
doubt.
And like I said, even and the thing about it is, when you were in the type of situation that I came out of, that I had to resurface from, is it does not discriminate. So
Mm.
it doesn't matter where you are on the social economic scale. It does not matter what your race is. It does not matter what your spiritual beliefs may be, that it can impact you at any level, from the White House to the crack house. You can be impacted by this. And so, coming out of it, it really did a number on me to get my bearings back, to try to find out who I was, because there's so much of you that is lost, like I said, wrapped up, tied up, and tangled up in another individual, that you have to try to find out who you are again. Who am I?
Yeah, yeah.
Who am I, separate individual, away from this person? You know, and like one of the viewers said, just not comparing yourself with others. But when you're coming out of traumatic situations, um, it takes a while. So the people that I work with, I encourage them to just stay at it. It's not an overnight process, and just to continue. Like I said, be aware of your thought patterns and your beliefs. What are you saying to yourself? What are you thinking about? Think about what you're thinking about. Are your thoughts and beliefs positive? Are they negative? Are they neutral? Are they based on your rationale? Are they based on rational facts? or reasons, or are they irrational based on false ideas? You have to know within yourself. So I try to get them to slow down and begin to just think about where they are in life, what it is that they want, and who they are, and think about what type of thoughts are coming to them. So that was number two, and that was a process that I definitely had to work through and work out with building my self-esteem.
Yes. So just repeat the phrase of number two again, so people who are joining can just know.
So point number two was become aware of your thoughts and your beliefs. What are you telling yourself? What type of self-talk are you telling yourself? You're going to have to reverse the curse, so to speak. Move from negative speaking to speaking positive about yourself. Affirmations are good, but long as you're making the same things that are realistic. Because sometimes what I find with affirmations, if a person don't believe what they're saying, it's a struggle just to put different affirmations out there. So make it relatable.
Yes. And we have a question. Thank you very much. That's really good for us to be thinking about. Stephanie asks, what would be your advice for those who don't have support? Those people are out there afraid to let go and they don't have a support system.
I would encourage them to look for support groups, women's support groups, or some type of support groups, even if it's a guy. If there's some type of men support groups that are in their area, search it out. If they don't have a personal family support group, be open to find that support that you need. And a lot of people will stay secluded and stay to themselves. That's if that's your preference, it's going to be harder to do. But if you can find a support group like the one that I'm getting ready to launch back in May. I do a monthly support group for women, and the name of that support group is Empowerment and Awareness. It's We Leap Empowerment and Awareness Support Group. We meet once a month. And although it is domestic violence related, we do share other topics and other motivational things to just encourage, empower, and just kind of get the woman back into a good place. And you don't have to be a victim of domestic violence to be a part of that group. It's women empowering women. So whether it's 2 people on the line or 22 people on the line, we're there to support each other.
That's wonderful, Gwen. And you're a relationship coach as well. Is that correct?
I am.
Yes. And you also marry people too, right?
I do.
Gwen is a woman of many talents, everyone. So you definitely want to connect with Gwen.
Yeah. So a certified professional coach and anger management specialist and a domestic violence specialist. And so my approach is just the everyday life, keep it real, strategy. Talk to people, meet them where they are, wherever they are, and help them to get to the next level of where they are in their lives, and so that takes encouragement. So having that support is very important.
When you talk about anger management, it seems that having the tools to regulate your behavior at any level, whether it's full-blown anger or whether it's some stage of that or wherever you are on the spectrum of it, but having, again, regulatory tools. Can't we apply similar tools in this discussion we're having regarding and I guess these are the tools you're sharing though, about self-esteem. Yeah. So how similar versus anger regulation versus self-esteem support would you say, how different or similar the tools that we use?
Well, the same concept is needed for both, that you can't change anyone else except for yourself. Your anger is your responsibility, and you developing your self-esteem is your responsibility. Sometimes because people have low self-esteem, it causes them to be angry, be jealous, be envious, be bitter, be, all of the above can tap into a person who's struggling with low self-esteem. It can cause them to be passive. It could cause them to be passive aggressive. It could, so all of these things are characteristics of people who deal with low self-esteem. So, but like I tell those that I work with in anger management class, I can teach you till the cows come home. But at the end of the day, if you don't make up your mind to take up the tools that are being given to you to implement them into your life, the likelihood of you seeing the results that you want to see or the change that needs to take place in your life is not going to happen. Same concept. I had to make up my mind to change the way I was talking. I had to make up my mind to change the way that I was thinking about myself. You could encourage me all day long, Emily, and tell me how I can do it and try to motivate me. So, but until at first there be a willing mind, that's scriptural. First, there must be a willing mind. You got to get to the place where you're sick and tired of being sick and tired and you're ready to win. And so I will cheerlead you and coach you to help you get to that point. But but when you get to that point, you still have to be willing to start. You have to still be willing to move. You have to be willing to put in the work. You have to be willing to run the plays, so to speak, because no one can do it for you but you.
Absolutely. No, you're dropping great wisdom here, Gwen, and I just want to encourage our viewers, anyone watching, to please share this, invite people, tag people who you think can benefit from this discussion. Like this post, comment. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Pauline. We really appreciate your being with us because I think this message is so key and so important for people to know. And at any stage of your life, it's young, old, as you said, it's impervious to, it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter how old, how young, how rich, how poor. Anyone can be a victim, I will say, of this kind of mindset or fall into a trap where this starts to happen. And the key is, as you said before, recognizing that you're going down a road and being able to change course or prevent it from happening in the first place. So
And one
yes.
of the things that I wanted to bring out is, oftentimes when we think about esteem, we think about low self-esteem, but there's another end of the spectrum as well. And so I wanted to talk about going from too much to too little to just right. So we actually, we're just talking about too little, having that low self-esteem or weak self-esteem. People with low self-esteem, they have that, like I said, those insecurity issues. They're not confident about their capabilities, or they don't recognize their self-worth. Sometimes these people can be bullies, they can be manipulators, they can be people pleasers. Like I said, they can be passive aggressive. Those are kind of the characteristics of a person that's operating with too little self-esteem. And then you have the opposite extreme of that, which people who have inflated self-esteem.
Uh-oh.
This is also a negative type of self-esteem, and it's found in people who think they are better than others. And, they have the tendency to underestimate everyone else's. They come across as arrogant. They have a superiority complex. They're conceited, excessively proud or vain. And so a lot of times, like I said, when we think about self-esteem, a lot of times we have that tendency to think about people who have low self-esteem, but something that can be just as equally devastating as a person who has an inflated ego or self-esteem. They can be just as harmful, doing harm to themselves or to others as well. So,
Go ahead.
so I wanted to put that out. So you go from one extreme of having low self-esteem to maybe overcompensating once you start on that path to turn around. And then you go past that balanced area and having just enough to becoming a bobblehead or big head or, that type of individual. And there's a difference between being confident and arrogant. And so we want to talk about that. So the esteem that we want to endeavor to have, it will be along the same lines of communication. You got that passive, you got that passive aggressive, you got that aggressive, and then you want to become an assertive communicator. So let's go back to what we're talking about with self-esteem. You have people who struggle with too little or that low or weak self-esteem. You have people that have too much, which is have that inflated self-esteem, that superiority mindset, that us for no more type of thinking. But then the type of balance that we want to have when we're developing healthy self-esteem is to have high or strong self-esteem. This is a positive type of self-esteem where people accept and value themselves and they value others. They're confident, they believe that, and they act on right, proper, and in effective manners. That's the whole point of having that high self-esteem or healthy, strong self-esteem is I'm confident in who I am. I can applaud you, I can cheerlead you, I can promote you and not be envious of you, not be jealous of you, not be, intimidated by you. Because like I said, you might be in a higher position than I am professionally, relationship wise, and you still can have very high self-esteem and be intimidated by somebody that's beneath you because it's still that wrong type of self-esteem. You feel threatened or challenged. But when people look at you, they wouldn't think that. They would never think that about you. But and it can come across in the way that you behave, the way you act, the way you think, the way you speak. So just because a person that's dealing with low self-esteem has to deal with the way they think and the way they speak, a person that needs to bring themselves back into a balanced place of healthy self-esteem also need to correct the way they think and the way they speak. Making sure that it is confidence and not arrogance. Making sure that you are not treating people that may not be on the same level of you or have the same amount of clout as you or may not have the same amount of influence as you, that you're not looking down your nose in a haughty, conceited, arrogant manner. So I want to talk to you very briefly in the time that we have about signs of strong self-esteem. What does a balanced self-esteem look like? What should that entail? What does that, when you're out networking, when you're out meeting people, sometimes when I network, and I haven't networked in a while, and that's been by choice. Everybody's calling me is like, Gwen, where are you? We miss you. We haven't seen you. I know, I'm taking a break. Sometimes it's good to be missed.
Would this be the third one, the signs of strong network, self-esteem, or is that not?
The third one would have been, we can do signs of strong self-esteem.
Well, how you tell me? I'm just trying to follow, how you want to put it.
You can make that signs of a strong self-esteem. But it was really challenging negative or inaccurate thinking, which was kind of still covered in 2. Point 3 was challenging negative or inaccurate thinking. And that's where I was talking about, just because a person might be dealing with low self-esteem, they still need to challenge negative or inaccurate thinking. But a person who has, that inflated self-esteem also need to challenge the way they are thinking.
Right.
If they want to come back to a place of balance.
Absolutely. So Gwen, not to get you off your train of thought where you were going, so please do share about the signs of the strong self-esteem, and then we can go into the number 3.
Okay. So a confident person can be easily spotted, and they command attention when they walk into a room, but so can a person with inflated self-esteem. Yeah. But there is a healthy balance, like I said, between the two. So a person with strong self-esteem, they know the difference between confidence and arrogance, like I said. And really the balance line there is having a place of humility. A person that's confident and not arrogant people are not humble. They'll walk on you, over you, and run through you to get what they need to get. A person that is confident is humble. They have a level of humility where they don't have to have the front row seat. They don't have to have their name in lights. They don't have to, have sex to get their way to the top. Something to go there. I'm going to be very transparent here. They don't have to compromise their character or who they are. They just walk in the level of confidence on the level that they at. When you learn how to perform at the level that you're at confidently, you don't have to be intimidated by anybody above you, next to you, or beneath you. If you're going to be the rookie, be the rookie of the year at the level that you're at. If you're going to be the MVP, be the MVP that you are at the level that you're at. Whatever level that you at, you can have healthy self-esteem. Sorry. So again, knowing the difference between confidence and arrogance, that type of person that is walking in that strong, healthy self-esteem, they're not afraid of feedback.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're not afraid of feedback. They don't people please or try to brown nose their way into certain areas, or, you know, seek other people approval. Be confident who you are, what you carry. You know, I don't have to run out looking for things. A lot of times, a lot of my speaking engagements are because people sought me out. The next one is not afraid of conflict. When you have healthy self-esteem, you understand that you don't have to be a doormat. You're not afraid of the word no. I'm sorry, I won't be able to do that. If you're a coach and you have a special price that you set, and people are trying to talk you down from here to $1.25, you know, $1.25, you know, being able to say no. And, you know, if you can't afford what I carry, you're going to have to find somewhere within your price range, because I know my value and I know my worth. I'm not afraid of conflict. I don't have a problem saying what I mean and meaning what I say, but doing it assertively, not aggressively. The next thing is able to set boundaries. You mentioned that a little bit earlier, and how that's going to be so important when you're trying to reestablish your self-esteem, especially if you're coming out of a toxic relationship, or you're coming out of whatever your situation may be. You're going to have to get to that place where you're going to have to set boundaries, that everybody should not have front row access to your life. And everybody that's with you may not necessarily be for you. You have to come to the realization of that. You're going to have to be able to know your place in people's lives and know the lives of people in yours. Set those boundaries, even if it happens to be family. So that's important. You got to be able to voice what it is that you need and your opinions. If you're in a circle where you're not able to share what you need or share your opinions, and you're the only woman in the group, and the thumb is always on you to keep, you know, they want to silence the woman's voice in the group, or whatever. No, you need to be in a place to where you can confidently speak your piece, you know, respectively. But you need to be in a place where you can have grow to a place where you can share what it is that you need now, and your opinions as well. And people who struggle from low self-esteem, I want to give you an example of this, may not be in a place where they can do that. But people who are impacted or have inflated self-esteem, they don't know how to hold back from doing it. So on one end, you got a person that won't say anything, and on the other end, that person don't know how to keep from saying nothing, because they're so used to being at the front of the room or at the center or the stage of attention, that when it's someone else's opportunity or time, they find it very difficult to hold their peace. This is Emily's time. This is Emily's show. I don't get on here trying to take over Emily's show.
Take it over, Gwen. Take it over.
But just wanted to give those as an example, you know.
No, those are great examples. Those are really, really great examples. And the irony of it all, though, while I listen to you, is that the person with the low self-esteem and the person with the inflated self-esteem almost end up being the same person. because they're so insecure, where they feel they have to as you say, overcompensate for some insecurity, that they become intolerable. And it kind of just, as you see, goes two things. Do you ever see it being that way? It's almost the same. It boils back to an insecurity, it boils down maybe to the root problem, but they may express it differently.
Well, I the reason I can speak on it, because being transparent, I was that. I went from one extreme to the other. I went from you're not gonna walk, to being stepped on and just pushed to the side, and what I thought, how I felt didn't matter, to gradually bypassing that place of balance, to you ain't gonna talk to me, in the kind of way, I just had this, it was all about me type mentality. But thanks be to God, hallelujah, who taught me how to humble myself, because the word of God says, humble yourself.
Yes.
Now, if you don't, he will. However, he gave me the steps on how to do that. And that's what I'm sharing with you guys. So I had to move from this person with low self-esteem, trying to find my path back. I went all the way to the other extreme. So I'm not pointing the finger at anyone. I'm talking from experience, because I have been the person with low self-esteem, and I have also been the person with the inflated self-esteem. But I thank God that through the things that I've experienced, I've gone through, I've dealt with, I've learned, that he allowed me to humble myself, to understand that I don't have to say something about everything. I don't have to be in the limelight all the time. I can sit back and actually push someone else from the shadows into the spotlight that's struggling. So that's why I'm saying what I'm saying. That's how I became the self-esteem empress, because it's one thing for you to try to teach self-esteem and all you know is the highs. It's one thing for you to try to teach self-esteem and all you know is the lows. But you're on a whole nother level, baby, when you can speak from both.
Preach it now. Yes. No, absolutely. And
how many people will actually say that they have had an inflated self-esteem? Not very many.
Or still do, by the way, not necessarily past tense, which is even more scary. But yeah.
So that in itself takes humility.
Yeah.
To be able to acknowledge that at one time I had a big head. I had a bobblehead doll, so I can identify one when I see one. So a few more things that I wanted to give you for strong self-esteem. Identifying that and knowing what that should look like, what you're pursuing, what you're trying to accomplish, that place of balance. The next one would be, like I said, assertive, but not pushy. Knowing how to say what you mean what you say, but not trying to manipulate people, coerce them, or, shove your way along to make it happen. That you want to be assertive, but not aggressive, pushy, or manipulative. That's a whole nother relationship issue right there. That's something I share, because that can go sideways. But anyway, you're not a slave to perfection. Even if you're a perfectionist, you don't have to be a slave to perfection. At some point, you have to go to bed and say, okay, I did my best, it's enough. Don't tweak it forever.
Yeah.
I'm not saying no names.
Absolutely.
So don't be a slave to perfection, and don't be afraid of setbacks. Like I said, in the process of you trying to develop that healthy place of self-esteem, sometimes people hold on to where they are because they're afraid to move forward, or they're afraid for people who are dealing with inflated self-esteem, by humbling themselves. They feel they're going to go into some setbacks, that they're going to lose something. You're not going to lose anything. If not, you're going to gain more peace, more compassion for others. Instead of just having sight, you'll have vision.
Mm.
You'll be able to see the bigger picture instead of tunnel vision. So yeah, don't feel failure. You won't feel inferior because you become confident in who you are and what you carry. And you can fit in any room, whether it's millionaires or paupers. You're confident in who you are. You don't have to put on or try to be anything that you're not. You're your own authentic self, genuine. There is not another like you, and neither will there ever be. So that, my dear, are the signs of strong self-esteem. And just quickly, I only have two more points that I'm going to drop for you. Again, point 4, just really kind of recapturing in a review. Adjust your thoughts and your beliefs. Replace those negative or inaccurate thoughts with accurate, constructive thoughts. And you do that by treating yourself with kindness.
I think this.
You forgive Emily.
Gwen, did it freeze? Because I didn't hear you for a few moments.
It may have. It says your internet connection is unstable, but for the most part, I hear you. I hear you clearly. Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now? Okay. So yeah, I can hear you now. I guess it's just what you were saying. Treat yourself with kindness, and I didn't hear the part after that.
Yeah, I was saying treat yourself with kindness and forgive yourself.
Okay.
Focus on the positive things. But that's, again, just adjusting your thoughts and your beliefs by replacing negative or inaccurate thoughts with accurate ones, with constructive thoughts. One of the things that I struggled with was feelings of unworthiness when I was coming back out of my broken place. And I really had to say things, like I said, affirmations are great, but you need to find things that really resound with you and that really can apply to you. And one of the things that I used to feel like is everybody else was so far ahead of me, or I'm so behind because of I allowed life to do this, anything. But one of the things that helped me was that what God does for others, he can do for me and more. I had to get to the place of repeating that over and over. So I didn't have to become envious or jealous, because remember, that was in my low self-esteem state. Feel like, I'm trying so hard, but I'm not moving. I'm not making any progress. What God does for others, he can do for me and more. I had to change the way I was thinking and the words that were coming out of my mouth when I was struggling with low self-esteem. And then one of the things I had to deal with when I was struggling with inflated self-esteem was a self-righteous, I work my way here, no one helped me type mentality, And I'm just going to use this because we both have a faith background. Sometimes even I see, like, in spiritual circles, that sometimes people can forget where they came from. Well, some people were born saved, so they've never experienced anything. However, I was not. So I understand that every saint has a past, and every sinner has a future. Again, a way to keep yourself humble, not thinking so highly of yourself and your walk and where you are and all of this kind of stuff, brings that humility back into play. So again, I wanted to just, again, expound on those two areas. Does that make sense?
Oh, it beyond makes sense, Gwen. And that there's so many things, there's so much depth to what you're sharing and the layers of this, that I always encourage people to go back and listen to these recordings again. I certainly do, and encourage those who are watching on the replay or rewatching it, because you always pick up something more than you might have heard the first time around. So it's always very, very valuable So that's really wonderful, Gwen. I have on my list, I'm trying to keep up. I know there's so many amazing tips. I have 1, 2, and 3, and I think maybe my numbering got off. So let me know if you have 4 and 5 ahead of you or where
No,
you are.
four was adjust your thoughts and beliefs.
Oh, okay, very good. I missed that. Okay, yeah.
So I'll go back over them for you. Number 1 was identify your troubling conditions that deflate your self-esteem. Like for me, it was my situation coming out of abuse. Yours may be different. Number 2, become aware of your thoughts and your beliefs. Think about what you're thinking about. Examine your self-talk. What are you saying to yourself? What are you saying about yourself? Number 3, challenge those negative or inaccurate thinking or language by, testing the accuracy of your thoughts. Is that really what's happening? No, God can do for me what he's doing for them and more. I had to challenge that belief that I would never be able to, you understand? So number 4 was adjust your thoughts and beliefs, replace the negative or inaccurate thoughts with accurate, constructive thoughts. By treating yourself with kindness, forgiving yourself, focusing on positive things. And so number 5, the very last one now, is self-care. Take care of yourself. Get out there and exercise 30 minutes. It's supposed to be a day, but if you can only get it in there twice like me, whatever, just take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Do things you enjoy. Don't get so busy trying to create a successful career or business or this, that, or the other that you forget to take that time to have that self-care. Make a list of things that you like to do and try to do something from that list at least every week. I love the fact that you did the whole bunkara. Is it bunkara?
Yes, my bunkara. Oh, yeah.
The bunkara. I saw that. I'm like, get it, Emily. But that shows me that you took time to do something you enjoy because you had to learn that routine. How long did it take you to learn that routine?
A couple of weeks, actually. I've been taking classes for the past month, my Bhangra Indian dancing class. But yeah, for about a month of lessons, but that routine a couple of weeks.
Awesome, awesome. So self-care. So you actually tie exercise and something you enjoy together.
Oh yeah. Yes. Yes.
And that increases your self-worth, your self-esteem, your self-esteem. And spend time with people who make you happy.
Oh yeah.
Spend time with people that make you happy. And don't waste time on people who don't treat you well. Like I said, know your place in people's lives and know their place in yours. So if someone is taking up space in your face, but got your feelings all over the place, you need to relocate them.
I hear a poem coming on, Gwen. I even hear a rap. I hear a song. Oh, yes.
I tend to do that often and don't even realize it's happening.
No, it's good. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. And really the whole self-care is really the foundation of everything, that you have the self-esteem to know that you are worthy of, you are worth, you deserve to have all these things to support your life.
That's right. And I want to say this because, again, I am a faith-based coach. If you feel that no one else in this entire world thinks you're worth it, know that Jesus does. Know that Jesus did, and that he gave his life for you to have an abundant life, not a defeated, depleted, raggedy, tore down, misguided, hurtful life, but an abundant, peace-filled, joy-filled, vibrant, thriving life.
Amen. Amen.
And so in the process of that self-care, while you're taking care of yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally, do not negate to feed and care for your spirit. And that is all I have for self-esteem, because Jesus is a big part of me moving from one end and helping me get back to a proper center from the other end.
Yes, yes, I do. I do concur with that for sure. And having that spiritual grounding and that Christian understanding. And I know different people with different religions may watch this and have different perspectives, but at the end of the day, it's about the Almighty God who gives you the power to overcome self.
Mhm.
So in our strength, we cannot. And I think that's what people don't realize is that we try to rely on our human frailty to overcome these really crippling challenges.
That's
And so I don't know what advice to give someone who doesn't see it from the perspective of a higher power, because I don't have an answer for that. The only answer, as you said, is Jesus himself and to that divine intervention and the
a
willingness.
lot of the people that I coach and counsel with, they might not necessarily be of spiritual persuasion or even consider themselves believers, but they know that I am. And so one of the things right up front that I let them know that, my reference point is not in and of myself. My reference comes from the word of God. So don't think that I'm doing something so grand, because it's just basically coming from the teachings and the truths from the word of God. Now, how I share that with them is not on a religious platform. It's on a relational platform. It's on a way and on a level that they can relate, that it's edible, it's tangible, it's something that they can apply to their lives and see the transformation and the changes that they desire. And it starts with feeding your spirit, developing that relationship, having an awareness about what that God thought you was worth saving, you
Yeah.
know.
And you know what, Gwen, I appreciate your highlighting that, because it is important for people to know that in the world that we live in, we can hold beliefs as individuals, our compass, what guides us individually, and still there's room for the other person to have their beliefs and have their perspective
Mhm.
without feeling threatened by it,
Yes,
because they have their own. But that
exactly.
doesn't preclude you or myself from having our own. And that's what people need to know. We don't have to subjugate who we are for somebody else. And that's
Exactly.
regardless of what your job is or what you do, that should always, because that's a part of your self-esteem. That's a part of what is giving you worth, is that belief structure.
Exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, so
Yeah,
you know what you're getting right up front,
yeah.
when you're working with me. And it's all good. It's all
It
good.
it certainly is, Gwen. I thank you for these words of wisdom. As I said, I'll be putting them in a blog post on my website, emily.com, and highlighting what you shared. And for those who want to connect with you, Gwen, what is the best way for them to connect with you? You have an upcoming program in May. So you might want to just remind us of that, and how can people connect with you online and such?
Okay, well, you can look for me via my group. It is, well, look for me personally, Gwen McLeod, and it's spelled McLeod. And then you can look for my group, Align to Love. It's where I'm actually getting ready to relaunch that back this upcoming Tuesday night, and where we focus on life, love, and relationships. So it gives those who participate in the group the opportunity to ask questions. You can email me at alignedtolove@gmail.com if you have any questions, or um,
TO
just
or
my,
the number?
I'm sorry,
Is it aligned to as in TO love, or is it the number?
alignedtolove at
Okay,
gmail.com. You can email me there. Or like I said, you
very
can
good.
find me on Facebook and join the group. We'll be meeting
Okay,
on Tuesday evenings at 9. So put the kids to bed,
excellent.
do what you need to do, get settled in, and we'll meet for about a half hour, about 30
Very
minutes out. Yeah, I don't want to be up too late, hold people up
nice.
too
Right.
late.
No,
And
that's
then the
great.
launch of the kickoff of our domestic violence empowerment and awareness group is coming up on May the 8th. It is a free session. All you need to do is just reach out to us on our website to get the Zoom information, because it is a private session. But definitely you can find us at WE, LEAP, LEAP, the
Is it .org? Okay, the sound just dropped right at that point. I don't know, Gwen, are you able to hear me? I'm not sure if you're hearing me or not.
Number 2. I hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. It just blanked out on me again. Yes, yes. I just want to clarify your email, your website, weleap.org.
Yeah, we leap the number 2.org.
Okay, weleap2.org. Okay, very good. Excellent. So we'll make sure that people have the links where they can connect with you, Gwen, and learn more about what you're offering and so forth. But thank you so much for being with us here.
Opportunity. Thank you, Emily. It was just nice to have a little fireside chat with you. And this is just my style. You know, when I'm coaching with people, what you see is what you get.
And you have so much wealth of knowledge, again, experience and insight to share. And it is a beautiful thing and so needed the time that we're in more than ever. So it's wonderful. So I congratulate you, Gwen, on all the impact that you have had and continue to have in the work that you're doing to help us all to achieve that higher potential through believing in ourselves and protecting what's important. So that's really great. So anyway, everyone, I look forward to seeing you next week on Supercharged Sunday. In the meantime, you can check out what's going on. I have my Monday Momentum every Monday morning at 7:45 a.m. Yes, I cannot believe it. Yes, I'm up and I'm doing it for 15 minutes on Monday mornings to get your week started off right in my Facebook group, Supercharged with Emily. So hopefully I'll see you there. And in the meantime, everyone stay supercharged, and thanks so much for being with us today. Okay, thanks, Gwen.
All right, bye, Emily. Thank you.
Thank you.